Watch it, boys bracing. Here we go, and go hard. And go hard. Very good. The Paddler's Pod with Sam and Macca.
Hello and welcome to the Paddler's Pod, the best surf ski podcast anywhere in the world. I think it's the first time I've ever said that, Macca. Hosted by two guys who may or may not be matching t-shirts today. Macca, what shirt are you wearing?
I have gone black. Yeah, I know you.
We
only
are
have
in
black.
matching t-shirts, and that is the kind of thing that you can see on our YouTube channel. But welcome back for another episode. Macca, how does the black t-shirt feel? Because that's a new delivery for you.
It is. It's come from your. I think it even just came off the back of your sweaty shoulders.
Only wore it for about 2 years.
Plus the hour-long episode that we did here on the Gold Coast, and then you gave it back to me all sweaty because I know you were nervous.
Do you like the shirts, listeners and viewers?
I hope so.
Well, if they do, send us a message because I think
more.
we might actually start firing that up again, which is something we're going to be doing in the future. And we're going to be busy guys in the future, Macca, because it's all starting to wind up for another season of downwind racing, isn't it? How is it up there on the Gold Coast, mate? Worlds, it's not far away now.
It isn't. It's just over 5 weeks. So things are certainly heating up. The weather up here is absolutely stifling. It's about 28 degrees, pushing 30, and we're still in winter. I actually paddled yesterday afternoon. We're out there with Corey. Corey's like, I love this weather. My body is no good with temperature regulation, so I was struggling. It felt like it was like back in the middle of summer because we've come out of winter, and yeah, this week's been quite unseasonal, but it's extremely warm. Things are starting to heat up. I guess it's a sign of things to come. Pretty exciting.
You're no good with the heat. You're not good with the cold either.
I told you, I'm no good at temperature regulation. I've said that many a times.
My shoulders are actually still peeling from that little bit of sun that I got on the Gold Coast. But I tell you what, I loved paddling up there. It was unreal. And I've been enjoying my paddling lately too because there is lots to look forward to. In fact, here in Australia, listeners, it is starting to get into full swing. We just had the latest round of the Australian Ocean Racing Series. We'll be chatting about that on this episode. We're seeing some very, very fast splits come in from right around the world. And then, as I mentioned, the World Championships now just 5 or 6 weeks away. We're going to be chatting about that too, Macca, very quickly. How's it all starting to come together?
Certainly is. Should we jump into it? Make this episode nice and short and sweet for our dear listeners?
Yeah, okay. I was going to ask how your paddling was, but you know what? You're right. It's not about you. It's not about me. No, you know what? We've lost our chance. Let's get stuck straight into our power plays.
Stuff him. He's, yeah.
The Paddler's Pod. Power plays.
Which this episode is brought to you once again by the team at Vaikobi. Macca, you may need to get in touch with Pat once again because if you're worried about that temperature regulation, you need new Vaikobi kit on your shoulders. They have the best gear when it comes to warm weather paddling attire. They have the best gear when it comes to cold weather paddling too. So they are your one-stop shop for all your paddling supplies. And today, the sponsor of the Paddler's Pod, which begins
Number 3.
in the Northern Hemisphere, Macca, with some very, very fast splits. And this is our bread and butter. This is what here at the Paddler's Pod we pride ourselves on, Macca. I think it's fair to say we got the conversation going again around fastest 1K split times, didn't we?
Yeah, I would say so. Obviously, the downwind drag race, I reckon we probably brought some light to it. I think there's still an organisation and an event on Live Heats, shout out to them, that I was playing around with. So I'm pretty sure someone is still the fastest, has the registered fastest kilometre.
I think it might be you.
I'm not that self-absorbed. Come on.
Little challenge, anyone, if you'd like to submit your 1K split time to Live Heats, if you figure out how to do it yourself with absolutely no prompting, we'll give you a prize. But Macca, you mentioned the team at Downwind Drag Race. They are our dear, dear friends. And although we've actually never spoken directly, they have carried on the baton that we like to think we got moving. And that is collating all of the fastest split times around the world. And there was one that came across my desk in these past 2 weeks that certainly caught my eye. Billy Butler and Matt Rowlands, who I assume were paddling a double, Macca, because if they did this in singles, they had to have been paddling a double. That information is being held private, and for good reasons. They are paddlers in the United Kingdom and on a downwind run in Wales. They clocked a 2-minute 30K in the double ski.
That's quick.
That is as fast as I've ever seen. 25 Ks an hour. The team who run the analytics here at the Paddlers Pod are telling me that is. Isn't that extraordinary?
It is absolutely astounding. I can't really fathom. I mean, you get a massive run, right? And you look at your fastest speed after, and you're looking at like 28K an hour. Like, and that's just for a split second where you hit, like you full momentum traveling down the run. They're traveling at an average of 25K an hour for a whole kilometer is pretty incredible. Like at that point, I want to know where the, let's find a map for this. I wonder if there's a wave that they might have been on. Because like that is simply like you just have to be on one run the whole way. You wouldn't think that you're not pushing over runs to make a 2-minute 30K. I think you're just like, you're in like the ocean's realm and you're just there along for the ride at that point. Surely.
Beautiful imagery, Macca. I think that's well said. Not only did they do a 2-minute 30K, look, their next K was a 3-minute. They've come back down to a 2:33 as well. Yeah, they've thrown the legs over. Had a drink.
Took a phone call like
another 2:33.
Like Oscar.
Not only that was actually the 38th, 39th, and 40th Ks
Whoa.
of their downwinder that did go for 42 kilometers an hour. Now listen,
I reckon a wave.
I know what yous are saying. I can hear it with my supersonic ears that are somehow hearing the future, and that is there any tide involved? We know that the United Kingdom has to have a little bit of tidal movement, but you know what, Macca? Who cares? I don't know if we...
Tidal movement can't make... They're still pushing a super fast K, right? Tidal movement might give you, like, at maximum 10 seconds, you'd think, right?
Yes, exactly right. And you know what? It's actually got me thinking as well, because if we're talking about 25 Ks an hour over a 1 kilometer stretch, I would like to know what the fastest people have actually just ever gone is. In a wave, on a run.
This is a contentious... No, this is hilarious. Dear listener, Barry Lewin, he claims to have gone somewhere around the vicinity of like 67 kilometers an hour.
Stop it.
No, he does. I mean, Oscar's obviously completely debunks that and thinks no. Him and his dad in a double just off the Durban coast on the Bommy have claimed to have gone around that 67 mark, I believe.
That is... I actually can't really wrap my head around that. Like, I'm a bit worried about safety in that scenario. Do you get a seatbelt to strap yourself into something like that?
I don't know how that works. I mean, I don't know if anyone watches this episode, How Surfers Get Paid, but there's Laird Hamilton on there talking about how you can't surf a 100-foot wave because of the velocity that the wave is traveling at. You cannot simply go down the face of. I don't know how that transitions into paddling and if it's any different to surfing, but I mean 67k an hour is pretty darn quick. But look, this is like third, fourth hand. I haven't heard the story from Barry myself, but I have heard that that is meant to be one of the fastest speeds ever clocked in an ocean ski.
It gets 10Ks quicker every time someone tells the story. Barry only told people that he went 47K.
I know, and now everyone's claiming he's a liar.
People to add it on. Look, if anyone's going to be clocking speeds like that, I think Barry Lewin is someone that I certainly know can pull it off. A very accomplished and passionate paddler out of South Africa there. But you know what? Maybe that's got us thinking, because I remember Dean Gardner actually on a 10 doubles, maybe our 4th episode or something similar, talking about the time that him and Oscar were clocking 40Ks an hour.
Yeah.
Across a 1K
down
split.
It might have been in Perth.
Yeah, look, all right, send them in. Send it all in. Your 1K splits,
I want to see it.
Your fastest speeds. And look, very important, don't, the speeds that you reach when you leave your watch running on your ski, which goes on the roof of your car, does not count. Because how often you're coming home from a paddle and you can just hear this beeping when you're driving and thinking, what is that? Yeah. And I get home and go, 42 Ks, and it includes the time where you've sat and had a coffee. So it actually kind of makes sense as if you've done, 40, 50 Ks in the boat. I've uploaded a few of those in my time. And why not?
You have. Why not?
And why not? But get him in. That is absolutely flying. Billy Butler, Matt Rowlands. Incredible. Well done.
Yeah, good man. Well done.
Number 2.
It's an icon of the Australian Ocean Racing Series, and the Chucky provided another great day out on the water in Sydney last weekend as that downwind season really starts to ramp up down under. The winners, Gemma Smith and Mitchell Trim, two very accomplished paddlers. We'll be chatting through those results in just a second. But to start with, Macca, the Chucky, it's changed the time of year that it has been held previously, but when it has been held at this time of year, it does kind of signal the start of things to come, doesn't it?
It certainly does. I mean, it hasn't changed too drastically from when it's been, but it certainly is, the ramping up. It's probably the more interstate, you would say, event on the Australian Ocean Racing calendar to start things off. Obviously, we had some South Australian races that had run. It used to start with the bridge to beach, which was a bit uncharacteristic because there was such a gap. But then Foster got brought in, so there was a bit more of like a condensing and there wasn't as much time off. But now there's definitely a clear off season, which we've discussed in the past, and like kudos to Dean. Like why drag out a series when it doesn't need to be done that way? This really is the start of racing, and it's like back to back every weekend, right? We got Foster, then we got the Bondi race, we go to Worlds, it's like straight back to the Coolangatta Gold, 20 beaches, then there's like Hong Kong into the race week. It's just like, it's non-stop, right? This is it. This is the start. Here we are. And I would say that, and you might talk a little bit more to this, but the event probably didn't have as large a field as it has in the past. I don't believe they got over the 100 paddler mark, which is a bit of a shame, right? And like, full honesty, I wasn't there, Corey wasn't there, Tom wasn't there. Unfortunately, life does take a hold at some point, and we've all got certain things on. But I don't think that's going to be indicative by any means of what the Australian Ocean Racing Series will bring for the rest of the season. It just might have been a bit more of a sleepy start, or people realise that, shit, there's that much racing coming up. I'm going to hold off maybe a little bit until the end of the season.
I think it's a bit of the latter, and I think, to be honest as well, the downwind series, well underway, just maybe not with the wind just yet, because when paddlers got to Collaroy last weekend for that race, the winds were predominantly northwest, and although that did mean that it was I guess it was always going to be a well set up course by Dean. That's his local paddling area. But what it did allow the field to get was a pretty nice little section from North Narrabeen, for those who are familiar, back down to Collaroy before you chase the reef back in and do a couple of laps. And that is what they did. In the end, it was Mitchell Trim who came out on top. We've spoken about him a bit on this podcast. In fact, he's actually been a guest host on this podcast as well.
Hasn't he?
During
He
your
has.
AWOL days, which is very funny because he says that he hasn't been an ocean ski paddler before, so this is all what feels like new territory for Trimmy, but he's done about 6 Molokai or something now, hasn't he?
I don't believe that. We're claiming him.
Trimmy finished about 30 seconds ahead of Dylan Askew, who had a really impressive paddle to take out the under-23 division as well. It was Trent Martin from the New South Wales Central Coast in third. Harry Torrens, fresh off his kayak tour overseas, in fourth. And Spencer Richards was the fifth single across the line. Great to see Spencer back paddling and racing well. Macca, just quickly on the men's before we speak about the women's. Mitchell Trim, look, I guess we kind of made a joke about it there. He's one that certainly makes the joke. It is a surf ski paddler. And I think people have this perception that if you're just a spec ski paddler and you don't specialize in, sprint or downwind paddling as well, that you're kind of just a sprint guy. But Trimmy's potentially the fittest guy I know, and he's one of the best trainers as well. And although he actually hasn't been doing that much this time of year yet, it goes to show his quality and what he can achieve later in the series too, if he sets his mind to it.
I 100% agree. But I don't think Trimmy's ever not in good shape, right? And not just physical. Chiseled. Yeah, not just physical shape too. Like, always paddling well. I don't think there's ever a doubt where, you wouldn't line up and think of him as a threat in any paddling event that you do, right?
Well, to put it in perspective, in surf life saving, he's the most consistent paddler over the last decade by potentially a mile.
Yes. Most unlucky bloke too. not taking out any of the wins. So sorry about that, Trim. I think like good on him, and he's always thereabouts, and it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, we've got the world life-saving titles happening right now in my backyard on the Gold Coast, which has caused some stressful nights for me at the moment, running the results programming for it all. But he's coming up to race, right?
He is not coming up to race.
He's
So,
not
Macca, why don't
coming.
you take a little sit back? You sit back and relax for just a moment. Good to see you prepared for the episode. And I'm going to chat about the women's field.
I should definitely know
on
that.
top, once again, it was Gemma Smith. She finished about 10 minutes clear of Phoebe Savage in second. Sasha Torrens in third. Charlotte Ward was fourth. And Tully Elliott was fifth across the line.
Your fellow redhead competitor.
That's right, ahead of a few more surf iron women as well. A couple of really impressive young paddlers in there too, but out in front and well and truly a class above was Gemma Smith. The women did have a head start in that race. Gemma did the first lap on her own. Trimmy actually caught Gemma at the exact moment that they went around the turning buoy. And Gemma said that because they were coming at it from different angles, that she had to stop and let Trimmy go through because otherwise she would have T-boned him and potentially sunk his ski. Now, is that tactics from Mitchell Trim? I'm going to say yes, because if Gemma got on his wash, they both know that she would have stayed there for the rest of the race. So Gemma unlucky not to get a lift the rest of the way through that race.
Isn't that tactical racing? Good on him.
Cutthroat from Trimmy.
Yeah.
But I think she did go with Trent Martin for that second lap as well. So
Yeah.
it just goes to show the kind of form that Gemma's in. But Macca, once again, she's going to be doing the rest of the Australian series, as always, ending in that Shaw and Partners WA race week. Gee, she's strong. She's just so strong. And I feel like she's continually setting new standards for women's paddling down here in Australia as well.
Time and time again, right? She doesn't need any introduction or like anything. I mean, if you'll go back to the episode later last year where we've got some funny remarks of me just getting, I wouldn't say cheered along by Gemma, more pushed along by Gemma in that double ski. She truly is an animal. Like, and having paddled with her, it was really impressive to see how far she can push herself. And I think not only is she pushing herself, but like you said, she's pushing the boundaries of women's paddling. I think it'd be really cool to see. Hopefully we get some really good conditions this year. I know, the race week, for example, has been maybe a little bit lackluster in the past, and we haven't seen those amazing conditions, throughout the week or even on the Doctor. But I wonder, how like that record would go under threat of D-Max if the wind is to be there. I think that could seriously be under threat.
Great call, Macca. Only time will tell. The Australian Ocean Racing Series well and truly fired up. The next race is just 2 weeks away at Foster as well, which is a new time of year for that event.
Hopefully some wind. Yeah. Far out. Please, no more westerlies. Please.
I think given what we're starting to see along the East Coast, look, it's hot weather now, bringing, northeasterly winds. I'm sure by the time Foster rolls around, there'll be some kind of cold snap or something. But regardless, it's going to be another incredible weekend of racing and just hanging out with fellow paddlers. So if you haven't entered, take a look at that. And in the meantime, Macca, we're going to be looking at an event just a few weeks further down the line in our number one power play.
Number one.
The ICF Ocean Racing World Championships are on us already. What's the countdown, Macca?
5 weeks, 2 days till the kickoff.
Oh my gosh. Is that till the race or when you leave?
No, it's till the race.
Oh my gosh. That's come around very, very quickly. No doubt for all the athletes too, but for us, I guess because it's that bit earlier in the year than what we've seen the last couple of years, it's a shorter run-up in terms of promotion and the like as well. But I think it's about time we started chatting about it. And look, there's one thing that has kind of caught my eye in this early stage, which I want to have a good chat about today, because we are going to be doing regular check-ins with the athletes on the lead up to that race in Madeira, which is just going to be amazing there. I know the local organising committee are doing a really good job of that, but Macca, that race is going to be without the reigning women's world champion Gemma Smith, and it's going to be without the single world champion from 2019, Danielle McKenzie, now Richards. They are you could argue, they are the two most accomplished downwind paddlers in the world at the moment, and the event's going to be without the two of them. Gemma explaining her decision and how difficult it was in an article that is now on the paddler.news. You can have a good read about that as she returns her focus to the surf iron woman world as well. But one thing that she did acknowledge was that part of the decision to miss the Ocean Racing World Championships this year was because of the fact that traveling away for these events every single year, obviously it does start to get difficult, but the location and I guess the proximity and the time of year that it is just a little bit too much to bear this year. Macca, all of this has made me reflect within myself about where this event is at. and where its future is going, because this is going to be the first time that, you know, we're now missing a couple of serious contenders that, look, I don't know if Gemma and Danielle have finished outside the top 5 in an international race ever. What does this say about the World Championships not to have the two of them there?
It's a strange one, right? Because we have seen this before, but it was COVID influenced. Like, you know, say what you will about, like, people don't like the World Championships, you know, have said things in the past about it, but time and time again, the best paddlers in the world will turn up and they will be there. And it's the hottest contested race in, I think, on the calendar, you would say.
Usually,
I mean,
that's correct.
Of the past world champs, I don't think there's anyone been really missing. And this is going to be the first time where everyone can go, obviously. And we're going to miss basically the two best, most consistent paddlers of the last 5 years.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm just going to very quickly jump back in there as well, Mac, because I do want to acknowledge as well that the athletes that we will have there, I know that we have Kira Bester, we have Michelle Byrne, Anna Swedish. Those three within themselves are three of the best paddlers in the world and could all win that race, even with Gemma and Danielle there. Last year, Kira Bester clocks the fastest split in the race. Michelle Byrne clocks the next maybe 3 or 4 fastest splits ahead of Gemma. You know, it was Gemma's consistency in that paddle into the headwind that did, you know, really open up that gap for her. However, it's an uncomfortable feeling sitting here knowing that we're not going to have two of the best, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame. You don't want to, like, you know, talk poorly about, because whoever wins deserves to win. And if you don't go, well, unfortunately, like, that's your decision to not go. But no one shouldn't, you know, be winning or win the race or feel like they shouldn't have won the race. They deserve 100% of
absolutely.
You know, what they get, what they're given. It's all that they have done.
Absolutely.
It's just, yeah, it's a bit weird that we are in that predicament. We're not facing the same situation with the men. Maybe there's not the depth though. Like, I think Perth had a huge amount of depth in the field. Maybe we're not going to see the same depth of paddlers attend Madeira, but we will see the same quality of the top field. There's not going to be anyone missing from that. Although Tom Norton's not going, so maybe that's not exactly so true. Right.
Maka, all of this has got me starting to think, because this year, 2024, is the 5th year that we have been holding these Ocean Racing World Championships every single year. Of course, when it first started in 2013, they were held every second year. And that was also something that was being done at the time by the Marathon World Championships and the Canoe Sprint World Championships as well. I'm sure slalom and whitewater are the same too. All of those ICF disciplines were held every 2 years. Now there's been a change to have them every single year. And this is the thing that annoyed me at the time. And I think this has only brought it to a head once again, is the fact that, you know what? We're not actually like other disciplines. Ocean racing isn't the same as sprint, because sprint is an Olympic discipline that is backed by Olympic level funding that picks up the athletes and takes them away every single year regardless. Ocean racing is a very unique discipline to paddling, and I feel as though that's something the ICF hasn't really grasped since taking over. You know, I only think back to the last time the event was held in Portugal, which of course was 2022. And something I've spoken a bit on the podcast about was it actually felt like we weren't even welcome to be there by the official organising committee. They held the race a day before the window. They had packed down the day after the race. They didn't hold a prize giving that night. They did it on the lawn the next morning. And then the cloud of dust that kicked up down the road as everyone sped off was almost, you know, enough to make you choke. But Mako, I think there needs to be serious reflection from the ICF about the direction that it wants to take ocean racing, because even last year in Perth, Paddle Australia sunk a lot of resources and did a great job of putting on that event. But to be brutally honest, what did the ICF do with that? They didn't even cover the event in terms of their own media. And they have paid employees that's job is to promote ICF disciplines that really contributed next to nothing for that. And I can't help but feel that the reason we have an ICF World Championships every year is because it helps the ICF make money and stay relevant. But you know what? This year, the World Championships isn't the most competitive race in the world. And that's the brutal reality of it, is that I dare say, knowing who's already going to come at the end of the year to Perth for the doctor, that is going to be the most competitive race. And I find that a real shame because, Macca, you and I are from the we're getting old now, but we're from the new generation of paddlers that started racing with the ICF World Championships. And I want that to be the biggest race in the world. I think it's an incredible celebration of paddling, and we're shooting ourselves in the foot by having it year on year in a lot of cases, places that are, of course, we have to spread it around, and Madeira is going to be amazing, but it doesn't change the fact that it's expensive for people to get to. You know, one unnamed 2-time world champion was exploring the cost of getting a boat there to race at the World Championships in Madeira.
One unnamed, that's only one person that could be.
and even they thought, it's too expensive for me to get there and race. So if it's too expensive for them or too logistically difficult for them, was probably more so the point as well. What about the rest of us?
Yeah, and not so. I think back to your point about the ICF, like it does, and this is like, and this happens through the governing body of Paddle Australia. There is some sort of like the other disciplines that aren't sprint and slalom, and I guess it's coming to a forefront now because of the Olympics. They do come in second fiddle, right? Because they're not an Olympic sport. They don't generate the same amount of income. I mean, I understand on one leg that that's the case because we're not bringing in the same amount of funding or, you know, government dollars that an Olympic discipline is. But having said that,
totally agreed.
There is, and I fully understand that, but there is, I mean, if you talk about how many people are turning up to the Australian Championships in sprint in Australia, there's far less than what's turning up to the Australian Championships for ocean racing, right? So there's a little bit of a disparity there between who they're representing, and this is happening from the bottom up, compared to who is actually paddling, and what discipline they are choosing to be paddling in. I think to your point as well about getting to Madeira, it's going to be the most spectacular place in the world. I don't know.
It's going to be amazing, and I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, I am so excited about going. But logistically, yeah, it's pretty hard to get there. But if you ask any manufacturer, they're not stoked about it going there. It's really hard to get boats there.
It's logistically, a time that's expensive for people anyway.
Yeah,
you know, and this decision was only made last year, whenever it was made in the last couple of years to send it there. It's not like we couldn't foreshadow the cost that it's going to be to get there. However, next year, for the very first time, the ICF Ocean Racing World Championships are going to South Africa. And doesn't that make a lot of sense?
It does. It
makes a lot of sense, but it's taken 12 years. We've gone to Portugal 3 times before we've gone to South Africa once. And, of course, Portugal, the closest aligned federation with the ICF. Let's certainly not look past that. But, when the ICF Ocean Racing World Championships were held every second year, I feel like it meant more. And, you only think back to that lineup of paddlers that there was in 2015. Well, you could argue that, at that time, that was one of the strongest, fields that we had ever seen, because you knew that you had to come at that point or you had to wait another 2 years.
Yeah.
Murray Stewart was there on the road to coming fourth in the Rio Olympics. Clint Robinson was there. It was a stacked field, and I haven't checked in with all the South Africans yet to know who's going to be going to Madeira. Obviously, it's open entry now, which is a change, and that's something that I certainly support. I like it being open entry. However, when you start to stack all of these things up, open entry every single year, it feels like it's a lot of take from the ICF and not much give.
I think I'll revert back to Molokai, and Molokai running an alternate discipline of single 1 year and double the next, and that would grow their event. And I would probably side with you. I would most definitely side with you that I think the importance, relevance, and maybe prestige of the event has been somewhat tarnished by the fact that it has moved to a one every year. We are a very new sport in that discipline, right? Marathon's been going for some time, sprint the same. They had so many years of that, whereas we had a very short period of time where people got to know the World Championships. It was only 4 technically 3 World Championships that ran every second year, and then they started running every year after that. So I would agree. I mean,
I just go
second.
Well, look, and I think, is there any chance the ICF would do it? God, no.
Well, they've already locked in dates till 2028. They've already got.
That's exactly right.
This may be all. It is all in vain because it's already happened. It's already set in stone, and we're going to be racing every year until 2028. We better like it because someone's turning up and someone's been a world champion, and they're holding that for the rest of their life. So
that's exactly right. And listen, I want to make this point as well. Like as I referenced before, I'm a huge supporter of the ICF World Championships. I love the fact that they're running events. However, I would love for them as an organization to show me that they care about ocean racing at all. And I'm here, I'm ready to see it. In fact, I'm begging to see it. However, I'm yet to see it. And I think after, the 2022 Ocean Racing World Championships in Portugal, I had a very bad taste in my mouth because I was one of the people that flew to the other side of the world to go and do it. And, the lack of care that was shown there stuck with me. I know, being someone involved in the organisation of last year's event in Perth, what went into that and who was carrying the can for that. It wasn't the ICF. And being involved in the media side of things as well, some of the conversations that were had with the ICF around that, my jaw almost smashed through the table. So look, I know this year's going to be incredible, and I know it's going to be an incredible race, an incredible experience, and I would absolutely have loved to have been there. But unfortunately for me, my own circumstances, work that's stopping me. For Gemma Smith, it's the Coolangatta Gold. But if you were racing every second year, maybe that wouldn't be the case.
Yeah, and look, life's hard, but it seems like racing every year is making life harder. Like on an event manager, like having a 2-year lead-in is so much easier than 1-year lead-in.
Yeah.
I've spoken from experience, so 100%. Yes, they have dates in the pipeline now for the events that are happening in 2028, so they know and they've got time to prepare. And that is, I would commend them on that if they are, which they are going ahead with. They've released locations, or countries, you would say, maybe not location, but countries for the championships up until 2028, which is a good thing if they're running with that. So yeah, it in the grand scheme of things, it is making it harder. And I do hear from the general participation of top end paddlers that they probably would have rathered it stayed every second year.
Yeah, exactly.
You would have heard the same.
Exactly right.
So
look, Mako, we do have a little bit of official business to get through, but before we do that, as I sit here in my room with the windows shut to try and make the audio a little bit better, sweating on what is a 28-degree winter's day here in Sydney. I don't know what it is.
It's warmy down. It's warmy down there too. Jeez, I thought I was talking it up.
I don't know what's going on with the climate. It's starting to change. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It is the perfect reminder for me to go and dust off. I've basically got my t-shirt and shorts. I'm blowing all the dust off them because it is summertime once again, and that means we are getting back into our summer paddling clothes. And God, I'm pleased about it, Macca. I'm so pleased.
I don't want to rub your nose in it, but I don't really get out of summer paddling clothes, to be quite fair. You know that.
Yeah, that's right. Well, obviously, when I paddled with you the other week, I had my shirt off. You were almost shivering. I thought you had a beanie on at one point. It was remarkable.
I got out there with my shirt off. It wasn't pretty. Big shirt tan. It was not nice. But
thankfully,
I can cover up. That's easily done.
Well, not only can you cover up, you can stay safe, you can stay cool as well, and you can stay warm in those colder conditions, thanks to the team at Vaikobi. Whatever you can imagine in terms of paddling clothes, they have it. And it doesn't just end there. They've got accessories. They're now really leaning into the off-water clothing as well. And the quality of their products is absolutely second to none. It's unbelievable. This is the time of year to do it. Don't you reckon, Macca? Now's the time. You don't want to be waiting till that first big sunburn of the season. If you're wearing a t-shirt, you get a t-shirt tan. Look, mine was a controlled burn. It was almost like a hazard reduction burn. It was like a hazard reduction burn with the bushfires when you're clearing the land, getting ready for
doing some back burning. Back burning, hey?
Well, it actually was a bit of back burning. I guess you're right, Macca.
You're right.
It was a bit of back burning.
Nice,
I don't know what any of that's got to do with Vaikobi, but Vaikobi.com for all of your paddling needs. And I am so sorry if you're listening in the Northern Hemisphere and you're sitting to yourself, looking at your reflection of that bronze tan that you've collected over the summer months. Well, I've got bad news. It's about to get cold. And Vaikobi has got everything to help you out there as well. So head to vaikobi.com for everything you need. Well, Macca, on the last episode of the Paddlers Pod, we put the call out for our second ever Talkback Radio segment. The topic was, what have you forgotten? I'll go first. I forgot to post the link anywhere for people to send their stories in.
You are unbelievable. But you know what? It's a two-man band.
Look, you forgot until you remembered, but it was yesterday. And by that point, I'd have said, don't worry about it, pal. It's too late. We're extending that by an episode. So on the next episode of the Paddlers Pod, we are going to be giving away a Vaikobi voucher to the best story about what you have forgotten. What have you forgotten? The link's going to be on our social media channels. We want to hear from you because Macca told a very forgetful story last month, but Macca with plenty of build-up. You've got another yarn for us today.
I've got one better. Jeez, I've got one better. You know what? I told this story about forgetting a paddle, and you know, sorry if you didn't listen to the last one, but you can go back and listen to it. I'm not going to recap it. I've forgot my paddle so many times, to be honest. Like, it was actually a joke when I was pretending to be an Ironman when I was a junior kid learning to drive. I would always forget my paddle and just end up having to do like swim board swims or board swim boards. Anyway, so that it wasn't so much of a surprise. I was just falling back into a bad habit, but I have done one so much worse, and my old man reminded me of it just last night when he was like, hey, I was trying to submit. He was actually going to record a video, and he's like, I was trying to submit it because I thought it'd be funny, but you didn't put up the link, so you obviously forgot that. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for that.
Good to know people are taking notice of that, though. That's actually quite positive.
That is positive. I mean, yeah, he's probably the only person that listens to it from front to back. Good on him. But he reminded me of a time.
Hold on. By the way, that's not true, and it's actually disrespectful to our listeners. I want you to apologise. Then let's
I am so sorry. That is absolutely incorrect of me
you
to say.
There's like 10 of them. Keep going. Let's get stuck into it.
Do you remember Hydrathon?
Yes, I do.
Yes,
and for those who
Steve
don't,
Southwell.
Hydrathon. Yeah, that's right. Hydrathon was run swim races here in Australia, right?
Well, it was a swim ski run. It was like the triathlon.
I've completely got it wrong. Yeah.
Well, you got it half right, 3/4, 2/3 right. So it was a swim ski run, and it was a bit like the rendition of triathlon for surf Ironman racing that was situated through the winter months to get people fit leading into the Coolangatta Gold. And all the rest of it. Steve Southwell had done it all. We actually was sponsored athletes at a period of my life back when I was 19. And when I was...
Shout out to Steve Southwell. Shout out to the great Josh Minogue as well. One of the true Hydrathon Hall of Famers.
How good. And so... There was a Hydrathon at Manly Beach, actually, and you could, in the Hydrathon, wear a wetsuit swimming, which was, you know, music to my ears because, geez, it floats your ass when you're a short, stumpy bloke like me, and I could swim so much better. I'd actually had one of my best mates, Bo Wheeler's, we called him a fridge to fridge the night before, which was like you ride from my house to his house, which is about 20 kilometres. And
there was a bit of damage back in the day.
Oh, I know. So I've done this the day before, and I'd ejected it. Like, we'd started so early at like 10 o'clock at my place, and we'd done the pre-work on the Friday to drop it, like drinks off at everyone's house. And we had like 8 stops along the way, and you had your drink set up all the way. We finished at his place for his birthday, and it was like...
Someone would always crash a bike on one of the last
game
stops.
over.
Like that. Someone got a really bad graze. Yeah,
just shout out. Do you remember? This is going to be a long story, but we got time and it's really funny. But do you remember when we did one with all of our Cronulla compatriots and we stopped off at Johnny Woods' house and we did that big long beer pong through his like tubing of the pool cleaner? Do you remember that?
It's ringing a lot of bells.
That was wild.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, let's not digress too far. Anyway, backstory.
Correct. That's
where I was. It was a big Saturday, and the race was on Sunday. And I went up, and all things were going dandy.
Just real quick, isn't it funny? That's so dirty to go through a pool cleaning tube.
It is absolutely horrific, and not one
really
person
bad.
did it. I think everyone did it, and so it's absolutely not hygienic. Wouldn't recommend, but whatever. Great story, great yarn. We did the race. I was swimming amazing. Did the ski. I didn't actually finish the race because of how bad of blisters I got. I don't know if that's like alcohol in my skin or the rest. Anyway, it's a long time ago. I'm not going to make excuses for it. Finished up. I was feeling horrific. I went out for lunch. Was like, yep, time to go home. Seen some people, had a drink, and I was driving home. and I get a phone call, and geez, I can't remember who I got a phone call from. But
important for the story that we keep it moving.
Yes,
is probably what I would think.
Come on,
yeah.
Jesus, mate.
Well, silence. It's the silence though, Macca, because we're on an audio medium. That's
okay. Silence builds suspense, I would feel. Anyway, so someone calls me, and I'm like, yeah, cool. Like, hey, what's up? And they're like, hey, are you missing something? I'm like, no. Look around the car. Like, no, I got everything. And they're like, oh, it's a pretty large object. And I'm like, sure. And they're like, it probably goes on your roof. And I'm like, oh, fuck. I'd left my ski on the Manly Promenade and was halfway home.
Oh, God.
You can't do that, can you?
Were you
Paul,
driving?
I had to.
Were you on your own?
I was driving on my own, so I had to ring Dean Gardner, who I was with Fen at the time, and I had to ring Dino. I don't even know if he remembers, and I had to get him to go grab it off Manly Corso,
he went
so hectic.
He went and got it. It was one of his boats, was it?
It was one of his boats, yeah. Obviously, like he loaned it to me, and I'd raced on it, and yeah, because you could paddle an ocean ski in these hydrothons, not a spec ski if you wanted, and yeah, I'd fully just left it on Manly Corso on the promenade there for God knows how long, right? I left it there while I went out for lunch, and then just completely forgot about it, got in the car and drove off. Like, Jesus.
Imagine if you sponsored a young kid and he pulled a little stunt like that. I think we might have to get Dean's recollections of that day to play on the next episode of the podcast. But we also want to hear from you as well, to all of our audience. What have you forgotten? It's a very simple thing that can win you very valuable, valuable prizes from Vaikobi.
I've won nothing. I'm ringing Pat now. I've won nothing, and I've completely embarrassed myself two times in a row.
Take a look at our social media for that. Make sure you check out the website. Have a look at the latest articles as well. Also, make sure you give the review a rating rather, and a view. Subscribe to our podcast too. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. These are just like a little to-do list before the next episode. But that is it from me. Another episode of the Paddlers Pod.
Nice and short and sweet, hey? Good to be here, Sam. I guess we'll wrap it up there. So, unless you got anything else to add.
I'm waiting for you to say those magic words.
Oh, the magic words, so you can get out of here. Until next time, happy paddling, fast kilometers. Take care and enjoy.
The Paddlers Pod with Sam and Macca.